ההם בזמן הזה. שהחיינו together. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. May we each shine our lights really brightly with no apologies. Be the bright light you are in the world. May this light be echoed through your eyes to everyone you see. And so it is my distinct honor and an overwhelming privilege to invite Peter and Tibor to come and speak to their father's legacy. Happy Chanukah, everyone. Shine a light. Shine a light.
Thank you. Amen. Shine a light. Amen.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for coming to honor my father. The mural outside is Tibor Sr. I'm Tibor Jr. And I'm here with my brother Peter, who has his hand raised, and I'll be speaking on behalf of both of us and our families. A short summary for 3 to 5 minutes, so you know where Tibor Baranski Sr. is coming from. First, I'll start out by, please allow me to thank Craig Dershowitz, Jeremy Goldshire, Lance Leitner of Artists for Israel, Shine a Light on Anti-Semitism, Combat Anti-Semitism, who sponsored the Righteous Among Nations Global Mural Project, which I heard about a bit this evening, and it's very impressive already in Europe. United States, hopefully we'll get over to Tokyo, where I have another residence beside Buffalo, and maybe Beijing. I tend to doubt it, given the circumstances, unfortunately. And I would also like to thank Rabbi Menachem for the wonderful prayer. I would like to thank, we are honored to have here with us the Hungarian Consul General, Dr. István Pásztor, and the Consul Assistant, Peter Knight. And I would also like to thank my classmate, Van Wallach, college classmate from Princeton. We graduated before the last ice age.
What year?
We graduated in 1980. I was originally class of 79, but I took off a year for Japan, and I had my second 2 years with Van. Yeah. And I would also like to thank Fernando Romero. Fernando, where are you?
Right here.
Fernando, thank you, and it's a real honor, and I'm very grateful to you, Peter and I and our families, for what you did. The artist, Fernando is the artist who painted the magnificent mural. This is an honor for me and my brother Peter, who I just introduced, to be here with you today and to represent our families on behalf of, and also my beloved father. Well, here gets the juicy part. In classic Baranski style, my father would smile if he were here today, and he might say the following: why is a big picture of me being painted on the building in New York City? My father was humble but outspoken. Since my childhood, he always said that I'm just an ordinary person doing what God demands me to do, to speak the truth, which only can be of God, and to act accordingly. In the fall of 1944, in Nazi-occupied Budapest, Tibor Baranski uncompromisingly stood up against the Third Reich and their henchmen in Hungary, the Arrow and Cross extremists. When Eichmann told him over the phone at the papal embassy that 12,000 protection letters for Jews that the Vatican embassy in Budapest was authorized to issue must be reduced to 3,000, he strongly reprimanded Eichmann and went ahead and issued, by his own estimates, not less than 12,000 to 15,000 protection letters. Angelo Rotta, the papal nuncio or ambassador at the time, was concerned over the wrath that this would provoke against the Jews that the Vatican was protecting in Hungary. Because my father basically told Eichmann to go to hell. My father knew that 12,000 to 15,000 was the actual number of what he affectionately called my Jews, because he organized their housing in protection houses, provided food and water over a period of more than 2 months. It wasn't 2,000, it wasn't 3,000, believe me. When my father said he knew something, he knew it. He always, if he didn't know, he would tell you in your straight that he didn't know, but he knew this. During the course of the Jewish protection movement in the fall of 1944, my father chaired the coordination meetings among the 5 countries that were protecting the Jews in Hungary at that time. These were the Vatican, represented by my father, Sweden, represented by Raoul Wallenberg, Switzerland, Spain, and Portugal. This little briefcase is what I received from Raoul Wallenberg's younger sister in Stockholm a few years ago. Just a year before my father died, we went to visit Nina Lagergren and her daughter and her granddaughter in Stockholm, and were received by the Swedish government. A year later, both my father and Nina died. My father was pushing 97, Nina was pushing 98. In 1948, the communists sentenced my father to 9 years in political prison in the city of Vác, north of Budapest, for being one of the student organizers of the anti-communist demonstrations at Pázmány Péter University in Budapest, where my father was a graduate student in theology and philosophy. He was released after 5 years in this political prison in 1953 on political amnesty on the death of Stalin. My father was a freedom fighter during the 1956 Hungarian Revolution. During the final days of the revolution, he was dispatched to Vienna, Austria, with a group sent by then Prime Minister Imre Nagy to request international Red Cross assistance for Hungary. Upon arrival to Vienna, they were told not to return to Hungary because the Soviet Russians were reoccupying Hungary with over 100,000 troops, and he was certain to be shot on the spot. From Vienna, he headed to Rome, Italy, to see his old friend Angelo Rotta from 12 years earlier, when he was saving the Jews from Nazi extermination, in an attempt to persuade Pope Pius XII to issue a public condemnation of the Soviet invasion of Hungary. Excuse me. This did not work out. He met my mother in a refugee camp in Rome, where he was her English teacher. The immigration quotas for Canada were still open in 1957, so they headed to Toronto and eventually settled in Buffalo, New York in 1962. I have 3 siblings. My older brother, Peter, is born in Gyöngyös, Hungary. I'm born in Toronto, Canada, and our younger sister was born in Buffalo, New York. It's a classic first-generation immigrant family, and we did it legally. I share this brief overview with you so you know about who my father was and what he stands for. He always strongly condemned the Nazis, the communists, and the socialists as being exactly the same in their destruction of human freedom and in their total inhumanity.
Bravo.
He referred to the Soviet occupation of Hungary as the Soviet devil replacing the Nazi devil. He said there was no difference except for some slogans between the two of them. Believe me, he knew. He was in a political prison for 5 years, much of that time in solitary. I share my father's view that anti-Semitism then and now is the tragic result of moral relativism that permeates society. And the pervasive and increasingly authoritarian secular state, which attempts to replace God in the family and suppress all forms of discourse that contradict the accepted narrative. In this universe, facts are malleable, oftentimes irrelevant, and even demonized. God in the family must be reinstated as our core value, otherwise anti-Semitism and other forms of hatred will continue to grow. Without faith in God, we have nothing. In conclusion, Tibor Baranski was the merger of intellect and faith. My father's deeply held belief in God was uncompromising. It was the core driver in his saving thousands of innocent Jewish lives in 1944 in Nazi-occupied Hungary. I quote my father since his words capture the essence of our Catholic faith and what this mural that Fernando painted commemorating him represents. And I quote, love each other sincerely. Peter remembers that interview. God is love. Love destroys hatred. Believe in God because he did, and that's why he was able to do what he did. It wasn't a fortuitous event. And it's a great honor for me to have, for Fernando and for all of you to have done this. I'm very grateful to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you.
God bless you, Father. God bless you and your father. Thank you. God bless you and your father.
I will